Welcome back to online classes. Dear students, I am James here. How are you? Today I am going to discuss with the Evidence Act under section 109. The Act explains about burden of proof as to relationship in the case of partners, landlord and tenant, principal and agent. Okay, what is that meaning? When the question is whether persons or partners, landlord and tenant, or principal and agent, and it has been shown that they have been acting as such, the burden of proving that they do not stand or have ceased to stand to each other in those relationship respectively is on the person who affirms it. The object of section 109 is prove the relationship between the partners. Number 2, landlord and tenant. Number 3, the principal and agent. Okay, and it has been shown that they have been acting as such when a question arises that they do not stand in the said relations or they have ceased to stand in their relations. The burden of proof lies upon the person who affirms it. And another point of view, when two persons have been shown to stand to each other in the relationship of landlord and the tenant, the burden of proving that such a relationship has ceased is on the party who so asserts. And the next point, where in a case the relationship of landlord and tenant are admitted or proved to exist, the presumption is that it continues, and the burden of proving that relationship ceased to exist is on the party alleging it. Okay, this is what saying section 109 of Evidence Act. Okay, we'll see section 110 of Evidence Act. Section 110 explains that the burden of proof as to ownership is on the person who affirms that he is the owner, which runs as thus. Okay, the section explains burden of proof as to ownership. What is that? When the question is whether any person is owner of anything of which is shown to be in the possession, the burden of proving that he is not the owner is on the person who affirms that he is not the owner. That's all. Okay. Okay. And section 111 of this Evidence Act saying about explain the burden of good faith in the transactions where one party who is in relation of active confidence is on the party who is in position of active confidence. The section applies between the parties as to the transaction only. Here I will give you another example of this transaction. Means the chapter 2 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 lays down the provisions about the contracts, voidable contracts, voidable contracts and void contracts. Okay, that's a void contract is at the time of entering into the contract is invalid. Okay, voidable means at the time of any convulsions threatening is valid. After that, if is proving by influenced by the any other persons, after that the contract is invalid. Okay, that is voidable contract. From section 10 to 30 of the Contract Act. And section 15 of the Act defines of a contract act coercion. Okay. And section 16 of the Act defines undue influence. Section 17 of the Contract Act defines fraud. Section 18 explains misrepresentation. So in all three sections, lacking of good faith is an essential ingredient. Okay. But here, as per the Evidence Act proving, section 111 of the Evidence Act is rule of evidence to prove good faith in the transaction. If any one of the transaction to prove good faith, without good faith, as per the contract, is invalid. Okay, so section 111 applies mostly in civil cases, and section 111 of the Evidence Act runs as thus: proof of good faith in transactions where one party is in relation of active confidence. That means where there is a question as to the good faith of transaction between parties, one of whom stands to the another in a position of active confidence, the burden of proving the good faith of the transaction is on the party who is in position of active confidence. I will give you two illustrations, then I will close this session. Okay. The number one, the good faith of sale by a client to an attorney is in question in a suit brought by the client. Here, who is the burden of proof? The burden of proving the good faith of the transaction is on the attorney only. Next illustration, the good faith of a sale by a son just come of the age to the father in question in a suit brought by the son. Here, the burden of proving the good faith of the transaction is on the father only. Okay. Okay, students, I am closing this session. We'll meet you again next class. All the best. Take care. Thank you. Bye.